Amerison had always been the heart of her family, the quiet but unshakable force who held everyone together through the storms and celebrations of life. Her home, a modest yet warm house tucked away in a quiet American suburb, had always been alive with laughter, chatter, and the aroma of meals lovingly prepared. It was a house that carried stories in every corner, stories of joy, of sorrow, of dreams, and of memories that refused to fade. Now, as she walked through the hallways adorned with fresh flowers and soft white ribbons for her daughter's wedding, Amerison felt a flood of emotions she could hardly put into words. Her daughter, Lila, was the light of her life, and seeing her radiant in her wedding dress brought tears to Amerison's eyes. She paused for a moment in the living room, letting the scent of roses wrap around her, and whispered softly, "You've grown so beautiful, my child. My sweet Lila, may your life be full of love and happiness." Her family was bustling around, preparing for the last details of the wedding. The room hummed with activity, her husband, Jonathan, adjusting his tie nervously, her son, Michael, helping with flower arrangements, and cousins and friends carrying trays of refreshments. Amid the clamor, Amerison tried to steady her heart, to focus on the joy of the day. But there was a hollow space in her chest, a quiet ache that no amount of decoration or celebration could fill. Her brother, Daniel, had been gone for nearly 5 years, taken from them in a sudden accident that no one had seen coming. Daniel had been more than a brother. He had been a guardian, a confidant, a partner in laughter and mischief. His absence was a shadow that lingered in the corners of Amerison's life, a quiet, painful reminder that some loves are too profound to be erased even by death. She often found herself talking to him in her mind, imagining his teasing voice, his warm, mischievous smile, and the way he had always known exactly what to say to make her feel safe. On this day, as the wedding preparations swirled around her, Amerison felt his absence like a physical weight. She walked past the old family photo on the mantelpiece, a snapshot of her and Daniel from decades ago, grinning wildly during a summer picnic. Her fingers traced the glass carefully, and she whispered, "I wish you could see her, Daniel. I wish you were here." Despite the undercurrent of grief, Amerison's heart swelled with pride. Lila was everything she had hoped for in a daughter, kind, thoughtful, and strong, with a heart that could light up any room. And yet, today was more than just a wedding. It was a reminder of the fragility of life, of how quickly happiness could be intertwined with sorrow. Amerison had learned, over the years, that moments like these were precious not just for the joy they brought, but for the memories they created, the laughter, the tears. The small gestures that would live on long after the day was over. As she moved toward the window, looking out over the garden where the ceremony would soon take place, Amerison felt a strange stillness settle over her. The wind whispered softly through the trees, carrying the scent of blooming roses and fresh grass. It was a calm so deep it almost felt like a presence. She shivered slightly, though she couldn't tell if it was the cool air or something else entirely. Amerison's mind wandered back to the mornings when Daniel would sit at the kitchen table, sipping his coffee, and teasing her about her overly meticulous planning. "You're always worrying, Amara," he'd say, using the nickname he'd given her as a child. "Relax. Things always work out. They have to." She smiled at the memory, the warmth of it almost tangible. If only he could have been there today. If only he could have seen Lila take her first steps down the aisle. The front door opened, snapping her back to reality. Lila appeared, radiant and glowing, adjusting her veil nervously. Amerison hurried over, smoothing her daughter's hair gently and holding her hands. "You look breathtaking," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Remember, my dear, no matter what happens today, you are loved beyond measure." Lila smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "I know, Mom. I feel it. I just wish Uncle Daniel could be here too." Amerison squeezed her daughter's hands, a lump forming in her throat. "I know, sweetheart. I know." For a moment, they stood in silence, mother and daughter, connected by love, grief, and a sense of shared history. Amerison felt an inexplicable urge to reach out, as if she could somehow feel Daniel's presence through the quiet air around them. The day moved forward, the preparations meticulous and careful, yet Amerison couldn't shake the feeling that something was amiss. There was a subtle tension beneath the laughter and celebration, a whisper of unease that made her heart race in a way she couldn't explain. She brushed it off as pre-wedding jitters, but deep down, a small voice in her mind, the same voice she had always associated with her late brother, seemed to urge her to pay attention, to be ready for whatever might come. As the guests began to arrive, Amerison welcomed them with grace and warmth, masking the flutter of anxiety she felt. Friends and relatives embraced, children ran around playing, and somewhere in the background, the string quartet began to play a soft, familiar melody. The day was beautiful, perfect even, and yet Amerison's heart remained on edge. She glanced at the clock, noting that the ceremony would start in less than an hour, and then, as she adjusted the flowers on the arch where her daughter would soon walk, Amerison felt a sudden chill, a prickling sensation at the back of her neck. Like someone was watching her. She turned slowly, scanning the garden, but there was no one there. The guests were all present, the sun was shining, and yet, the feeling persisted. Her heart quickened, and a whisper seemed to brush against her ear, faint but unmistakable. "Be ready. Be careful." Amerison froze, her mind racing. It couldn't be real, she told herself. It was just nerves, just anticipation. But deep inside, she knew it was more than that. Somewhere, in the quiet recesses of her heart, she felt a presence she couldn't explain, a connection that went beyond the physical world. And though she didn't understand it yet, Amerison had a sense that her life, and the day she had worked so hard to make perfect, was about to change in ways she could never have imagined. She took a deep breath, trying to steady herself, and looked toward the garden again. The chairs were set, the guests chatting, and Lila stood at the edge of the aisle, radiant and nervous. Amerison smiled through her tears, feeling a surge of protective love for her daughter. She had to be strong. She had to be ready for anything, because Amerison had a feeling, a deep, unshakable knowing, that today, her family's joy and her own courage would be tested in ways she could never have foreseen. And somewhere, beyond the veil of life and death, Daniel was watching, waiting, and perhaps preparing her for the impossible choice that was about to come. The morning of the wedding was alive with energy, laughter, and an underlying hum of anticipation that Amerison could feel vibrating in her bones. The house that had been quiet for the past several years was now brimming with movement, relatives scurrying about, deliveries arriving, and friends coordinating last-minute decorations. The scent of fresh flowers mingled with the aroma of pancakes, coffee, and cinnamon rolls, creating a comfortingly domestic atmosphere that wrapped Amerison in a sense of warmth. Yet, beneath the surface, a tremor of unease had begun to grow in her chest, a tiny whisper that she could not ignore. Amerison moved from room to room, her hands busy adjusting ribbons on chair backs, straightening flower arrangements, and checking that every detail was perfect for Lila's wedding. Her mind, however, was elsewhere. With each adjustment, each carefully placed petal, her thoughts wandered back to her late brother, Daniel. Daniel had been the kind of brother who left an indelible mark on everyone around him. He was both mischievous and protective, the person who would steal the last cookie from the jar, but then give you the biggest hug when you caught him. Amerison remembered childhood days filled with his laughter echoing through their small neighborhood, days when their mother would scold them for running through puddles or tearing up the garden, and Daniel would defend them both with dramatic flair. He had been her partner in every adventure, her confidant, and at times, the voice of reason when she needed grounding. She paused near the staircase, her hands resting on the polished wooden banister, as a flood of memories came rushing back. She could see Daniel sitting at the edge of the porch one summer evening, watching fireflies dance in the fading sunlight. He had turned to her, his eyes full of that mischievous spark, and said, "Life is too short to worry, Amerison. You can plan everything, but sometimes, the most important moments happen when you least expect them." Amerison closed her eyes and took a deep breath. His words, spoken so many years ago, resonated with her now more than ever. She had been so careful, so meticulous, making sure everything for Lila's wedding was perfect. And yet, a small, persistent voice in her mind, one that sounded suspiciously like Daniel, kept whispering, "Be ready. Be careful. Trust your instincts." Shaking her head, Amerison tried to dismiss the feeling. Perhaps it was just nerves, she told herself. Weddings had a way of making even the calmest hearts jittery, and she had every reason to be tense today. Lila was about to embark on a new chapter of her life, and Amerison wanted everything to be flawless. She reminded herself that the little imperfections would not matter in the grand scheme of the day, but the urge to anticipate every possible mishap was too strong to ignore. Downstairs, the kitchen was a whirlwind of activity. Michael, her teenage son, was helping the caterers set up trays of hors d'oeuvres, his usual teenage awkwardness softened by a sense of responsibility that Amerison found both surprising and heartwarming. Jonathan, her husband, had taken it upon himself to ensure that the seating arrangements were in order, his brow furrowed in concentration as he cross-referenced lists and checked guest names against place cards. Amerison smiled to herself. Her family had always risen to the occasion, always pulled together in times of need, and today was no exception. As Amerison moved toward the dining room, she noticed Lila standing near the window, adjusting her veil nervously. Her daughter's hands trembled slightly, and Amerison felt a pang of protectiveness. "Lila," she said softly, stepping closer, "you look beautiful. I promise, today will be perfect because you carry all our love with you." Lila smiled, her eyes glistening. "Thanks, Mom. I wish Uncle Daniel could see this." Amerison's throat tightened. "I know, sweetheart. I know." She reached out, brushing a stray lock of hair from her daughter's face. "But you know he's here in spirit, watching over you. And I think he would be proud." They shared a quiet moment, mother and daughter, bound by love and memory. Amerison's thoughts drifted back to the time when Daniel had first held Lila in his arms as a newborn. She remembered the way he had whispered promises to protect her, to guide her through life's challenges, and how he had insisted on being the first to change her diaper, much to Amerison's exasperation. He had adored his niece, and she had adored him in return. That bond had never truly been broken. The house was now buzzing with even more activity. Cousins were hanging decorative lights along the garden walkway, neighbors were delivering last-minute floral arrangements, and photographers were arriving to capture every candid moment. Amerison moved through the chaos with practiced grace, her mind working on multiple levels, organizing, directing, comforting, and observing. She smiled as she watched family members work together, the love and care in every gesture reminding her that this day was more than just a ceremony. It was a celebration of unity, resilience, and the bonds that had carried them through years of hardship and joy. Despite the outward calm, Amerison could not shake the sense of foreboding that had settled over her. It was subtle at first, a slight tightening in her chest, the faintest chill at the back of her neck, but it grew stronger with each passing moment. She found herself glancing at the phone on the kitchen counter more frequently than necessary, as if expecting a call she could not yet name. And then, every now and then, she caught herself imagining Daniel's voice in her ear, saying, "Pay attention. Trust your instincts." Amerison paused by the dining table, setting out a tray of freshly baked cookies. She allowed herself a moment to breathe, to reflect on the significance of today. Weddings, she realized, were not just about celebration. They were about memory, about legacy, about the intertwining of past and present. Today, as she prepared to send her daughter into a new life, she was acutely aware of the invisible threads that connected them to those who were gone, to those who had shaped them in ways both seen and unseen. Her thoughts wandered again to Daniel. She remembered the last time she had spoken to him, just weeks before his accident. They had sat on the porch at dusk, sipping iced tea and talking about life. Daniel had laughed, a sound that had always brought her comfort, and said, "You worry too much. Amerison. Life has a way of teaching us lessons we don't expect. You'll see one day. She had smiled then, not knowing that the lesson would come so soon, not knowing how fiercely she would have to hold on to her instincts in the years to come. The afternoon sun began to filter through the windows, casting a golden glow over the preparations. Amerison moved to the garden to check the seating arrangements once more. She walked slowly, taking in the soft rustle of leaves, the vibrant colors of the flowers, and the gentle hum of activity around her. Everything looked perfect. Yet, beneath the surface, the sense of urgency she could not name continued to grow. She knelt briefly to adjust a row of chairs, and in that moment, a memory struck her with startling clarity. Daniel had once taught her a simple trick for staying calm in chaotic situations. When everything feels overwhelming, focus on what you can control, Amerison. Let the rest flow as it must. She took a deep breath, feeling the familiar warmth of his guidance wash over her. It was comforting, yes, but also a reminder that sometimes guidance came when it was most unexpected and most needed. As Amerison rose, brushing dirt from her hands, she noticed Michael hovering nearby, looking unusually serious. "Mom," he said hesitantly, do you ever get the feeling that something might go wrong? Not with the wedding itself, but I don't know, something else." Amerison studied him, seeing the same cautious awareness in his eyes that had been present in her own since childhood. She wanted to reassure him, to tell him that everything was fine, but the truth was, she could not entirely dismiss the feeling that had settled over her. "I don't know, Michael," she said carefully. "Sometimes. I think we just have to trust our instincts. If something feels off, we pay attention. That's all we can do." He nodded, seeming to understand, and returned to helping with the flowers. Amerison watched him for a moment, feeling both pride and worry. The day was supposed to be filled with joy, laughter, and love, yet the quiet whisper of unease persisted, threading itself through the excitement like an invisible current. Inside the house, Lila was now surrounded by her bridesmaids, adjusting her gown and veil. Amerison took a moment to sit and watch, taking in the sight of her daughter transformed into a bride. The young woman before her was poised, radiant, and full of hope, but Amerison's heart ached with the knowledge that life was fragile, that joy and sorrow often walked hand in hand. She whispered a silent prayer, asking for protection over her daughter, over her family, and over the bonds that had carried them through years of love, loss, and perseverance. The afternoon waned, the sun dipping lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the garden. Guests began arriving in larger numbers, and Amerison found herself greeting each one, her smile warm, her words measured, her heart quietly vigilant. She could feel the threads of memory weaving through the day, connecting the past to the present in ways she could not fully explain. And somewhere deep within her, a sense of anticipation, of warning, of unseen presence, pulsed like a heartbeat. Amerison did not yet know the source of the unease, nor the reason for the whisper of urgency that had settled over her. But she did know one thing: her brother's voice, whether memory or spirit, was guiding her, and she would listen. She would trust her instincts, and she would protect her family at all costs, even if it meant facing the unimaginable. As the final preparations were made, Amerison took a deep breath and straightened her posture. The wedding would begin soon. Guests would take their seats. And in just a few moments, the moment Lila had dreamed of would arrive. Amerison's heart swelled with pride, love, and an unshakable sense of responsibility. She was ready, or at least she would be, whatever was about to come. The day had been perfect so far, but Amerison could feel the calm before the storm, a quiet, tense pause that seemed to stretch through the garden, the house, and her very soul. She glanced toward the horizon, as if expecting to see something there, some sign, some signal. And somewhere deep within, she felt the unmistakable, impossible certainty that Daniel was near, watching, waiting, preparing her for the moment when everything she had built, loved, and cherished would be tested in ways she could never have imagined. The garden glowed under the gentle warmth of the late afternoon sun, each ray filtering through the branches of tall oaks and maples, casting intricate patterns on the soft green grass. The floral arch, draped in delicate white roses and ivy, stood at the end of the aisle like a silent guardian of the day's most significant moments. Chairs lined both sides of the aisle, meticulously arranged, and the gentle hum of guests chatting and greeting each other filled the air. The atmosphere was festive, yet underneath the laughter and polite conversation, Amerison felt a tension she could not shake. Amerison stood near the edge of the garden, her hands folded in front of her, observing the scene. She had always loved weddings, the pageantry, the symbolism, the quiet intimacy that threaded through every ceremony. And yet, today, as she watched her daughter Lila adjust her veil with the help of her bridesmaids, Amerison's heart was a mixture of pride, nostalgia, and unease. Memories of her late brother Daniel came unbidden, tugging at her mind. She remembered the time he had stood at her own wedding, beaming, making light jokes to ease her nervousness. He had been the first to dance, the first to clap, the first to shed a tear at the vows. And now, in his absence, the memory of him seemed more tangible than ever. Amerison wondered what he would have said today, how he would have teased her about the flowers, the guest list, the tiniest imperfection she might have overlooked. The thought made her smile softly, a bittersweet ache in her chest. The ceremony was about to begin. The string quartet played a soft, lilting melody that floated through the garden like a gentle breeze. Amerison moved closer to her seat, adjusting the hem of her dress, her heart tightening with a mixture of anticipation and dread. She felt the presence of her family around her, the proud faces of her husband Jonathan, her son Michael, and the countless relatives who had come to witness Lila's big day. Every face reflected excitement, joy, and love, yet Amerison could not shake the gnawing sensation that something unseen lingered in the air, something waiting to disrupt the harmony of the moment. Lila's bridesmaids began to line up, and Amerison noticed the way her daughter's eyes flickered nervously toward the entrance of the aisle. She smiled reassuringly, brushing her hand against Lila's shoulder. "It's your day, sweetheart. Just breathe and walk confidently. You've got all the love you need surrounding you." Lila nodded, swallowing hard, her eyes glistening. "I know, Mom. I wish Uncle Daniel could see this. He would have loved everything, the flowers, the music, the little details you helped me plan." Amerison's throat tightened again. "He is here, darling. I can feel it. He's watching over us." As the music swelled, the guests fell silent. Amerison took a deep breath, preparing herself for the wave of emotions she knew would hit as Lila began her walk down the aisle. Every step her daughter took toward the groom, every glance exchanged, every soft smile, reminded Amerison of the passage of time, the fleeting nature of life, the bittersweet blend of joy and sorrow that accompanies it. She remembered the time she and Daniel had spent talking about life, love, and family. He had always said that moments like this were treasures, to be held tightly in memory because they were the essence of what made life worth living. "Capture them in your heart, Amerison," he had said, "because nothing lasts forever, but love does." As Lila stepped forward, Amerison felt a strange chill brush her shoulder, like a whisper of wind carrying a voice she had not heard in years. She glanced around, but no one was near. Guests were focused on the ceremony, some smiling, some dabbing at tears, all unaware of the quiet tremor running through Amerison's senses. She shook her head, trying to dismiss the feeling, telling herself it was nerves, anticipation, the emotional weight of the day. But then, a subtle, almost imperceptible sensation prickled at the back of her neck, the same feeling she had experienced earlier in the day. It was as if someone unseen was watching her, waiting, urging her to pay attention. She clenched her hands, forcing herself to stay present, to focus on Lila and the unfolding ceremony. The groom, Daniel's longtime friend Ethan, stood at the altar, his hands shaking slightly despite his best efforts to appear composed. Amerison noticed the tenderness in his gaze as he watched Lila approach, the way he adjusted his cufflinks nervously, and the soft exhale of relief when she finally reached him. The officiant began speaking, and Amerison listened, letting the words flow over her, grounding her in the reality of the moment. And then it happened. The phone vibrated in her clutching hand, startling her so much that she almost dropped it. She fumbled for the screen and froze. The name flashing on the display made her heart lurch. It was Daniel. Her brother, who had died nearly 5 years ago, was calling her. Amerison's hands trembled violently, and she stared at the screen, her mind racing. How could this be? There had to be some explanation, prank, technology glitch, some cruel coincidence, but deep inside, a voice whispered, "It's him. It's really him." She took a trembling breath and answered. "Daniel," she whispered, her voice barely audible, but filled with recognition, disbelief, and a strange sense of urgency. Amerison, his voice was unmistakable, soft, urgent, yet eerily calm. "You have 60 seconds. Evacuate, now." The words hit her like a physical blow. She froze for a heartbeat, unsure if she had heard correctly. Guests continued watching the ceremony, oblivious to the storm brewing in Amerison's mind. Her heart pounded in her chest as a cold sweat broke out on her forehead. "Daniel, what's happening?" she asked, her voice trembling. "No time," he replied, his voice firm, leaving no room for hesitation. 60 seconds. Trust me. Protect your family. No. Tears welled in Amerison's eyes, but there was no time to question the reality of the call. Something primal, instinctual, surged through her, the need to protect, to act, to respond without hesitation. She glanced at her daughter, who was mid-step down the aisle, radiant and unaware, and then at Jonathan and Michael, who were focused on the ceremony. She realized she had to act quickly, but without causing panic that could lead to chaos. Amerison swallowed hard, forcing her mind to focus. She had always trusted her instincts, and now she had no choice but to rely on them fully. She leaned toward her daughter, speaking in a low, urgent whisper that only Lila could hear. "Sweetheart, something's wrong. We need to step aside, now." Lila's eyes widened, confusion and fear mingling with trust. "Mom, what?" "But the ceremony, please, just trust me. We have to move." "No." Amerison's voice, though hushed, carried the weight of authority and urgency that left no room for argument. Lila nodded, her hands clutching Amerison's as they turned toward the nearest exit. Guests began to notice the sudden movement, some whispering, others looking around in confusion. Jonathan, sensing the gravity in Amerison's expression, moved quickly to gather the rest of the family. Michael followed, his own panic subdued by his mother's determination. The tension in the air was palpable, a stark contrast to the earlier calm and celebration. As they moved, Amerison felt an almost tangible presence guiding her steps, a force that was at once comforting and terrifying. Daniel's voice echoed in her mind. 60 seconds. Hurry. She clenched her jaw, pushing past fear, focusing entirely on moving her family to safety. The officiant tried to intervene, calling out, but Amerison held up a hand, her eyes blazing with intensity. "Trust me," she said, her voice unwavering despite the chaos around her. "This is serious." Time seemed to stretch and compress simultaneously. Every second was magnified, every movement critical. Amerison's mind raced through possible scenarios: fire, gas leak, structural failure, but she did not have the luxury of identifying the danger. She only knew one thing: Daniel had warned her, and she would not question him. Not now. Not ever. As they reached the edge of the garden, Amerison's breath came in short, shallow gasps. She turned briefly to look back, her heart aching at the thought of leaving the guests behind, yet knowing she had no choice. She had to act decisively, to protect the family she loved more than anything, and then, as if confirming her fears, she heard a subtle but unmistakable sound, a faint hissing from the garden, almost imperceptible, yet enough to make her blood run cold. A realization struck her with bone-deep clarity. Daniel had been right. There was danger, imminent and real. Amerison's mind sharpened into laser focus. Every lesson, every memory, every instinct honed over years of caring for her family guided her actions. She grabbed her daughter's hand, called to Jonathan and Michael, and moved with purpose, each step precise, calculated, urgent. The ceremony, the guests, the beauty of the day all faded into the background. There was only one thing that mattered: the safety of her family. As they reached a safe distance from the hissing sound, Amerison allowed herself a brief moment to breathe. Her heart was pounding, her hands shaking, but her eyes were alight with determination. She glanced at Lila, who clutched her hand tightly, fear and trust mingling in her gaze. "Mom, what was that?" Amerison swallowed, fighting back tears, and replied softly, "I don't know yet, but we are safe. For now." And somewhere, just beyond the veil of perception, Amerison felt the presence of her brother, Daniel, watching, guiding, ensuring that the family he had loved so deeply would endure whatever was coming next. The calm of the afternoon shattered in an instant. Amerison's heart was still pounding from the phone call, her mind racing to process the urgency of Daniel's warning. She could hear the faint hissing in the distance, growing louder, almost imperceptible to others, but undeniable to her trained instincts. The guests, oblivious to the invisible threat, continued their chatter, laughter, and excitement. But Amerison knew that seconds could mean the difference between life and disaster. "Everyone, please. Move back. Evacuate." Amerison's voice rang out, firm and commanding, carrying over the music and murmur of the crowd. The first wave of confusion hit immediately. Guests looked around, alarmed, trying to understand what had prompted her urgent cries. Lila, frozen mid-step, clutched her bouquet tightly, her face pale. Jonathan stepped forward, protective, scanning the crowd and then turning toward Amerison. "What's happening?" he demanded, his voice tense. "Danger." Amerison shouted, her eyes darting toward the hissing sound. "I don't know exactly, but we need to get everyone to safety now." Panic rippled through the guests. Some thought it was a joke, a nervous overreaction, while others reacted with instinctive fear. Children screamed, adults shouted, and chaos threatened to overtake the meticulously prepared wedding garden. Amerison's adrenaline surged. She would not let the confusion paralyze her. She had to lead, guide, and protect. She grabbed Lila's hand and moved swiftly toward the edge of the garden, signaling Jonathan to gather Michael and the older relatives. "Form a line. Hold hands if you can," she called out, her voice slicing through the panic. A few guests hesitated, looking to each other for reassurance, but Amerison's commanding tone left no room for doubt. Her presence, normally calm and nurturing, had transformed into something formidable, a force born of love and urgency. She remembered Daniel's voice, 60 seconds, and that brief phrase echoed in her mind, keeping her focused, alert, and determined. As the family moved, Amerison noticed small, telling signs of danger, a faint shimmer near the base of the floral arch, the subtle distortion of heat in the air, a smell that reminded her of gas or chemicals. Her stomach churned with dread, confirming what her instincts had already suspected. She had no time to identify the exact cause, only to act decisively. "Everyone, follow me," she shouted. "Stay together. Don't panic." Guests began to understand the urgency in her tone. Some clutched children, others grabbed purses or belongings, but Amerison's focus never wavered. She guided them toward the wide exit at the side of the garden, calculating every step, every movement. Her mind raced through emergency procedures she had learned over the years, mentally assigning tasks. Who would help elderly guests? Who would calm children? Who would keep the path clear? Amerison felt Lila's small, trembling hand in hers, and she whispered, "We're okay. Trust me. Just follow me, sweetheart." The bride nodded, tears streaking her cheeks, her lips pressed into a tight line as fear battled with trust. Amerison's own chest burned with emotion, a mixture of adrenaline, worry, and the protective instinct that had been honed over decades. She glanced at Jonathan and Michael, who were acting quickly, rounding up guests and maintaining order despite the chaos. They were her anchors, her family united in the face of the unknown. Then the first sign of true danger became visible. A small flicker of orange appeared near the base of the flower arch, accompanied by a sharp hiss. The air carried a faint, acrid smell, unmistakable to Amerison's senses. Fire. Or perhaps a chemical reaction. Whatever it was real, immediate, and threatening to escalate. "Keep moving," she commanded, her voice steady despite the rising panic. She ran toward the nearest safe exit, weaving through clusters of shocked guests. Her eyes scanned constantly, noting hazards, identifying weak points in the path, and adjusting their route in real time. Every second counted. The children cried, the older relatives stumbled, and the guests who had not yet understood the seriousness of the situation began to react with fear. Amerison kept her voice firm, authoritative, and calm despite the chaos. "Step carefully. Stay together. We're almost there." She felt a tug on her arm. Lila had tripped over the hem of her dress, and Amerison swept her up instinctively, cradling her in one arm while keeping the other free to guide others. Her heart pounded violently, a mix of fear, love, and the raw, protective instinct that defined her. She could feel Daniel's presence in the back of her mind, urging her to keep going, guiding her through the panic with a calmness that belied the chaos. Jonathan was now at her side, assisting in forming a protective barrier around Lila. Michael helped a group of younger children, calming them as best he could while running towards safety. The family, moving as a unit, embodied the kind of teamwork and trust that Amerison had always known was possible in moments of crisis, and yet, the danger was growing. A small flame flickered along the edge of the flower arch, threatening to ignite the surrounding decorations. The hissing grew louder, sharper, a warning that time was running out. Amerison knew that any delay could be catastrophic. She scanned the garden, calculating the shortest and safest path to the driveway and the parked cars beyond. Her mind was razor-sharp, processing danger, human behavior, and escape routes simultaneously. "Everyone, stay calm. Keep moving," she shouted. Her voice carried over the panic, her authority unquestionable. Guests who had hesitated before now followed her lead, trusting the woman who had always been the heart of their family. Amerison felt a sudden surge of fear. What if someone didn't make it? What if the hissing turned into an explosion or a fireball? She couldn't let that happen. She would not let that happen. She drew on every ounce of courage, every memory of Daniel, every instinct honed through decades of love and loss. She could see the driveway now, a few dozen feet away, and she pushed forward with renewed urgency. Children clutched parents' hands, couples moved as pairs, and elderly relatives leaned on willing arms. Amerison led the way, her heart hammering, her mind completely focused on the one goal: safety. Suddenly, a guest stumbled, tripping over a flower pot, and Amerison lunged forward, catching them just in time. "Keep moving. We can't stop now," she urged. Her eyes flicked to the flame, which was now spreading slightly along the decorative arch, and she realized that time was running out faster than she had imagined. Finally, they reached the edge of the driveway. Amerison guided the group behind parked cars, creating a makeshift barrier between themselves and the growing hazard. She exhaled sharply, her chest heaving, feeling the adrenaline coursing through her veins. They were safe, for now. Lila clung to her, trembling. "Mom, you saved us," she whispered, tears streaming freely. Amerison hugged her tightly, fighting back her own tears. "I had help," she said softly, glancing upward as if to acknowledge the invisible presence she felt beside her. "Someone warned me. Someone I love." Jonathan joined them, his face pale but composed, placing a reassuring hand on Amerison's shoulder. "You were incredible," he said. "We would have been lost without you." Michael, still catching his breath, added, "Mom, that was amazing. You knew exactly what to do." Amerison allowed herself a brief moment of relief, but she knew the danger was not entirely gone. The hissing and flickering from the arch were increasing, a reminder that the threat was real and could escalate. She scanned the area again, noting the guests' positions, the proximity of the flames, and the layout of the garden. Her mind raced, calculating next steps. "We need to move further away," she said firmly. "Keep everyone together. Stay calm, stay close, and follow me." As they relocated to a safer distance, Amerison felt an almost tangible warmth behind her, a sense of guidance and protection that filled her with awe. It was Daniel's presence. She was certain of it now, not just in memory, but as if he were truly there, ensuring that his family would endure this moment unscathed. The garden, once a place of celebration and joy, now stood as a stark reminder of how fragile life could be. Yet, amid the chaos and fear, Amerison felt a profound sense of purpose. She had acted decisively, guided by instinct, love, and the mysterious warning from her brother. She had saved her family, and that was the only thing that mattered. Guests began to murmur in disbelief and gratitude, slowly realizing that Amerison's swift action had prevented what could have been a disaster. Tears streamed down faces, hands were clasped in prayer, and the air was thick with emotion. Amerison allowed herself a small sigh of relief, but she did not let her guard down. The day was far from over, and the danger, though mitigated, still lingered. She turned to Lila, her daughter's eyes filled with awe and fear. "You're safe now, sweetheart. That's all that matters." Lila nodded, burying her face into her mother's shoulder. "Mom, thank you. Thank you for saving us." Amerison held her close, feeling a mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. The adrenaline that had carried her through the evacuation slowly ebbed, leaving behind a profound emotional weight. She had faced the unimaginable and emerged victorious, guided by love, memory, and the unbreakable bond she shared with her brother, even in death, and somewhere, beyond the veil of perception, Amerison felt Daniel's presence, quiet and reassuring. A silent guardian watching over the family he had loved so fiercely in life. The initial panic had subsided, but the garden remained a scene of tense silence. Guests clustered together, whispering anxiously, many holding on to children, others clasping each other's hands tightly. Some faces were pale with shock, some streaked with tears, and all carried the lingering tremor of fear. In the midst of it, Amerison stood firm, her chest heaving from adrenaline, but her mind working tirelessly, assessing the situation and ensuring her family's safety. She turned to look at Lila, who was still trembling slightly. Her arms wrapped around her mother's waist. "It's okay, sweetheart," Amerison whispered, pressing a comforting hand to her daughter's back. "We're safe now. That's what matters." Lila's eyes glistened with tears, but she nodded. I can't believe this happened. Mom, you saved us." Amerison held her daughter close, feeling the warmth of her body, the rapid heartbeat, and the fragile thread of life that connected them. "I didn't do it alone," she said softly, thinking of Daniel. "Someone warned me. Someone loved us enough to make sure we were ready." Jonathan approached, his face pale but composed, and took Lila gently by the hand. "You were incredible, Amerison," he said, his voice steady but filled with awe. "You didn't hesitate for a second. That's why we're all safe." Amerison exhaled slowly, trying to release some of the tension that had coiled inside her. Her family was unharmed, and that was all that truly mattered. But the gravity of what had just happened weighed heavily on her heart. She could feel Daniel's presence like a warm, reassuring shadow at her side, a constant reminder of the love that transcended life and death. The guests began to recover, though some were still visibly shaken. Conversations murmured around her as people recounted what had just occurred. Someone mentioned a faint gas leak near the arch, confirming Amerison's instincts. A wave of gratitude and relief spread through the crowd, and Amerison noticed the way people looked at her, not with fear, but with admiration and a newfound respect. Children clung to their parents, and elderly relatives slowly regained their composure. Amerison guided them to a safe area near the driveway, ensuring that everyone had space and a sense of security. Michael moved efficiently among the guests, offering reassurance and helping those who were unsure where to go. Jonathan stayed close to Amerison, silently supporting her as they coordinated the group. As the chaos gradually subsided, Amerison found herself leaning against the side of a car, taking a moment to breathe deeply. Her thoughts drifted back to the years before Daniel's passing. She remembered how he had always been the one to calm her during moments of fear or uncertainty, his words steady and reassuring. "Trust your instincts, Amerison," he had said countless times. "They'll never fail you if you listen carefully." She realized, with a mixture of awe and sorrow, that he had been right. Her instincts had guided her through the most terrifying moments of her life, and though Daniel was no longer physically present, his voice had reached her when she needed it most. Lila approached her, still holding her mother's hand tightly. "Mom, do you think he was really?" she asked, her voice hesitant. Amerison looked into her daughter's eyes, the same eyes that had always reminded her of herself at that age, curious, trusting, and full of love. "I don't know, sweetheart," she replied softly. "But I know that whatever happened, it saved us. That's all that matters." Jonathan joined them, wrapping an arm around Amerison's shoulders. "You were incredible today," he repeated. "You kept everyone calm, guided them to safety. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't acted so quickly." Amerison felt a swell of emotion rise in her chest. She had always considered herself the caretaker, the silent guardian of her family. But today, she had realized that sometimes courage came not just from planning or preparation, but from trusting something deeper: intuition, love, and the unspoken guidance of those who had passed but never truly left. As the guests slowly returned to calmer states, some began sharing stories of their own experiences with Daniel, recounting his humor, kindness, and the impact he had made on their lives. Amerison listened, tears streaming silently down her cheeks as the memory of her brother filled the space around her. It was as if he were present in the laughter, in the whispered conversations, in every gesture of care and remembrance. The wedding, once teetering on the edge of disaster, now carried a different energy. There was relief, yes, but also a profound sense of unity and appreciation for life's fragility. Amerison realized that the day would be remembered not only for the love it celebrated, but also for the courage, resilience, and bonds it had revealed. Lila, still holding her mother's hand, looked up with a mixture of curiosity and awe. "Mom, do you think Uncle Daniel, he knew something was going to happen?" Amerison took a deep breath, searching for the right words. "I think, yes," she said finally. "I think he loved us enough to guide us, even from wherever he is now. Love doesn't end when life does. Sometimes it finds ways to reach us in moments we need it most." The children, now calmer, began to explore the safe area under watchful eyes. Amerison allowed herself a small smile, appreciating the way life continued, even after moments of terror. The wedding, despite the interruption, would still go on. Lila's happiness, the family's togetherness, and the memory of her brother's love had created a day more memorable and meaningful than any she had ever planned. Amerison's mind wandered back to her own childhood with Daniel. She remembered long summer evenings spent playing in the garden, the sound of his laughter echoing through the air, and the countless lessons he had imparted with patience, humor, and love. He had always emphasized the importance of family, of cherishing every moment, and of acting courageously when it mattered most. She felt his presence now, not just as memory, but as a living, guiding force that had shaped the outcome of the day. Jonathan, sensing Amerison's contemplative mood, squeezed her hand gently. "You know," he said softly, "I think Daniel would be proud of you. Not just for what you did today, but for the person you are: strong, compassionate, and brave." Amerison smiled faintly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I hope so," she whispered. I just wish he could have seen all of this, Lila getting married, the family together. He would have loved every moment." As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting golden hues across the garden, Amerison felt a profound sense of peace begin to settle over her. The immediate danger had passed, and her family was safe. Yet, She knew that life was fragile, unpredictable, and precious. Every laugh, every tear, every embrace now carried a weight of gratitude and awareness she had never fully appreciated before. The guests, sensing the shift in mood, began to offer words of comfort and gratitude to Amerison. Some shared personal stories of Daniel, others expressed relief and admiration for her quick thinking. Each interaction reinforced the truth that family, love, and connection were the ultimate anchors in a world full of uncertainty. Lila approached again, her hands clasped together. "Mom, can we finish the wedding?" she asked, her voice small but hopeful. Amerison nodded, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. "Yes, sweetheart. We can finish it. But let's take it slow, savor each moment, and remember that we've already been reminded how precious life is." Jonathan smiled, wrapping his arms around both Amerison and Lila. "We're together. That's what matters." Amerison closed her eyes briefly, taking in the sounds of laughter, conversation, and soft music returning to the garden. She felt Daniel's presence like a warm embrace, a gentle reassurance that he had guided them through danger, that his love remained, and that his spirit would always be a part of their lives. As the evening settled, Amerison reflected on the events of the day. She realized that the wedding had become more than a celebration of love between two people. It had become a testament to the strength of family, the power of intuition, and the enduring connection between the living and those who had passed. She held Lila's hand tightly, feeling the pulse of life, the warmth of family, and the unspoken promise that love would always endure. And somewhere deep within, she knew that Daniel had been there every step of the way, guiding, protecting, and watching over them with the same unwavering love he had shown in life. Amerison finally allowed herself to exhale fully, releasing the tension, the fear, and the adrenaline that had gripped her for hours. The danger had passed, her family was safe, and the lessons of the day were etched deeply into her heart. She had witnessed the fragility and beauty of life, the power of love, and the ways in which the bonds of family could carry them through even the most terrifying moments, and as night fell, painting the sky with deep purples and golds, Amerison felt a sense of closure and hope. The day, once filled with fear, had transformed into a memory of courage, unity, and the enduring presence of love, even from beyond the grave. Night had fallen over the garden, and a gentle breeze rustled the leaves, carrying the faint scent of roses and fresh grass. The once chaotic scene had transformed into a calm, quiet aftermath, a fragile peace settling over Amerison and her family. The guests were slowly gathering their composure, speaking in hushed tones about the events that had transpired. Though the wedding had been interrupted by fear and uncertainty, it had also become an unforgettable testament to courage, love, and resilience. Amerison stood near the edge of the garden, taking a moment for herself. Her heart was still pounding, her adrenaline slowly receding, but her mind was alive with reflection. She looked up at the night sky, the stars twinkling faintly through wisps of clouds, and felt a strange, comforting presence beside her. It was Daniel. She could feel him, not in the physical sense, but in a profound spiritual way. His energy radiated warmth, reassurance, and love, as though he had never truly left her side. She closed her eyes and allowed herself to remember him fully, the laughter, the arguments, the lessons he had imparted over the years. Daniel had always been her protector, her confidant, her mischievous partner in life's adventures. And now, even in death, he had guided her when it mattered most. Amerison felt tears sliding down her cheeks, a mixture of grief, gratitude, and awe. "Thank you, Daniel," she whispered into the night, her voice trembling. "I don't know how you did it, but you saved us. You saved my family." A gentle wind brushed her cheek, almost like a caress, and she smiled through her tears. It was as if Daniel was responding, reassuring her that he had always been there, guiding her with his love and presence. Jonathan approached quietly, sensing the introspection. He placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke softly. "Amerison, you were incredible today. Not just with your instincts, but with your heart. You reminded everyone what family really means. Amerison turned to him, her eyes glistening. It's not me, Jonathan. It's him. Daniel. He warned me, guided me. I don't know how else to explain it. I felt him. Jonathan nodded, understanding more than she expected. Then he's still with us. In ways we can't always see, but in ways that matter most. They stood together in silence, letting the magnitude of the evening settle over them. The chaos had passed, yet the lessons remained, etched deeply into their hearts. Amerison felt a renewed sense of clarity about life, family, and love. She realized that every moment, no matter how fleeting, carried weight and significance. She had been reminded, in the most intense way possible, that the bonds of family and the love of those who had passed were forces beyond comprehension, forces that could guide, protect, and inspire even in the most dangerous moments. Lila approached slowly. Her hands clasped in front of her, still holding the delicate bouquet from earlier. "Mom, I still can't believe it," she said softly, her voice filled with wonder and lingering fear. "Everything, you saved us. I feel like Uncle Daniel was really here." Amerison knelt to meet her daughter's gaze, brushing a stray lock of hair from her face. "He was, sweetheart. And he always will be. Even when we can't see him, even when we don't hear him, he's here, in our hearts, guiding us, loving us, protecting us." Lila's eyes shimmered with tears, and she nodded. "I think I understand now. Family isn't just about being together when things are easy. It's about standing together when life tests us. And today we proved that." Amerison smiled, her heart swelling with pride and emotion. She hugged her daughter tightly, feeling the rhythm of her heartbeat, the warmth of her small frame, and the unspoken promise of love and protection that had carried them through the day. Michael joined them, a quiet presence at their side. "Mom, you've always taught me to trust my instincts," he said, his voice steady but filled with admiration. "Today, I saw it in action. You saved everyone. You saved us." Amerison took a deep breath, placing a hand on his shoulder. "We saved each other, Michael. Family is a team, and love is the force that guides us when we don't know the way. That's what Daniel reminded me of, even now." Jonathan gathered the family close, a protective, warm presence that anchored them together. "We've been through a lot today," he said softly. "But we're stronger because of it. And Daniel, well, he showed us that even those we've lost are still with us, in ways that matter most." Amerison looked around at her family, at the guests who had slowly gathered to offer comfort, at the quiet glow of lanterns lighting the garden. She realized that the events of the day had transformed everyone present. Fear had given way to gratitude, chaos had revealed courage, and love had proven itself in the most extraordinary way. She felt a presence brush her mind again, subtle yet undeniable, Daniel's unmistakable energy. It was as if he were whispering not just guidance, but pride and approval. Amerison closed her eyes and allowed herself to embrace the feeling, letting it wash over her like a warm, protective wave. "I'm proud of you," she whispered back, her voice filled with emotion. "Not just today, but for everything. For being brave, for loving, for protecting those who matter most." The night deepened, stars twinkling brightly in the clear sky. Amerison felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. The danger had passed, her family was safe, and the presence of her brother reminded her that love transcended life itself. She understood now that life was fragile, but family was eternal, and those we loved never truly left us. Guests began to slowly disperse, some sharing hugs, others whispering words of gratitude and admiration. Amerison guided her family toward the house, ensuring that everyone felt safe and comforted. The wedding, though interrupted by fear, had become a profound memory of courage, unity, and spiritual connection. Inside, Amerison found herself reflecting on Daniel's lessons, on the moments they had shared, and on the wisdom he had imparted over the years. She realized that life's most important lessons were often learned in moments of crisis, that love, courage, and trust were tested when it mattered most, and that the bonds of family were the strongest force in the world. She led her family to a quiet corner of the house, away from the remaining guests, and allowed herself a moment to breathe deeply. The adrenaline had ebbed, leaving behind a profound emotional weight. She thought of Daniel, of the phone call, of the 60 seconds that had determined their fate. She understood now that life was precious, fragile, and unpredictable, but also that love and connection could guide them through even the darkest moments. Lila sat beside her mother, resting her head on Amerison's shoulder. "Mom, I feel like I understand him now," she said softly. "Uncle Daniel, he wanted us to be ready, to be brave, to care for each other." Amerison nodded, brushing a hand through her daughter's hair. "Yes, sweetheart. That's exactly it. And we did. We stayed together, we trusted each other, and we listened to what mattered most. That's how love works. That's how family works." Jonathan placed a comforting arm around Amerison and Lila, holding them close. "We're together," he said softly. "And that's what counts." Amerison closed her eyes briefly, allowing herself to feel the warmth of her family, the comfort of their presence, and the enduring love that connected them all. She could feel Daniel's energy one last time, subtle but unmistakable, like a gentle hand on her shoulder, a whisper of approval and pride. The night stretched on, quiet and filled with a sense of reflection. Amerison knew that the day would be remembered not only for the wedding, but for the courage, resilience, and love that had been tested and proven. She felt a profound gratitude for her family, for the lessons she had learned, and for the spiritual presence of her brother, who had guided them through danger and left them with a memory that would last a lifetime. And as she looked at Lila, Michael, and Jonathan, Amerison understood something fundamental. Family was more than blood, more than presence. It was love, trust, and courage woven together in ways that transcended life itself. And in that truth, she found a deep, abiding peace. The garden, now calm and quiet, seemed to echo the invisible presence of Daniel. Amerison felt the connection between the living and the departed, the tangible and the unseen. She realized that life was full of uncertainties, but family, love, and the guidance of those who truly cared could carry them through any storm. Amerison hugged her daughter tightly once more, whispering a final thought into the night. "Thank you, Daniel, for everything." And in the silence that followed, the family felt a sense of closure, a profound spiritual connection, and the knowledge that love, true, enduring, and unconditional, would always prevail. The first hints of dawn had long passed, but the garden remained bathed in the soft, golden glow of early evening lanterns. The events of the afternoon had left a profound mark on every soul present, yet Amerison felt a quiet determination rising within her. Though chaos had threatened to ruin what should have been a day of pure joy, she knew that it was not over, not yet. Lila's wedding could still continue, and this time, it would be infused with a deeper sense of meaning, resilience, and love. "Are you ready to go back?" Amerison asked Lila gently, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her daughter's ear. Lila nodded, eyes still wide from lingering fear, yet filled with a renewed sense of courage. "Yes, Mom. Let's do this. But this time, we'll do it together." Jonathan stood beside them, his face calm but alert, ready to support Amerison in any way necessary. Michael offered a reassuring smile, as if to say that no matter what happened next, they were united. Amerison felt a wave of gratitude for her family, the bond they shared, and the love that had guided them through the day's chaos. They moved back toward the garden, taking deliberate steps. Guests had begun to regroup, whispering softly amongst themselves, sharing stories of the evacuation and expressing gratitude for Amerison's quick thinking. Some tears were still streaked across cheeks, but there was also laughter, nervous, tentative, yet genuine, bubbling up from those who realized they were safe. Amerison guided her family to their seats. The string quartet, which had paused during the evacuation, began playing again, its soft melodies filling the air with a sense of calm and hope. Amerison looked at Lila, who straightened her posture, lifted her chin, and allowed herself to smile. The wedding, once threatened by disaster, had taken on a new layer of significance. It was now a celebration not only of love but of survival, courage, and the unbreakable bonds of family. The officiant, having regained composure, began speaking softly, acknowledging the interruption but emphasizing the resilience and unity that had carried everyone through the scare. Today, the officiant said, is a testament to love, family, and the courage that we find when life tests us most. Let us continue this ceremony, mindful of what truly matters. As Lila walked down the aisle once more, Amerison's heart swelled. The movement was slower, more deliberate, each step carrying the weight of gratitude, reflection, and awe. Her daughter's eyes met hers, and Amerison gave a gentle nod of encouragement. This was more than a wedding march, it was a passage from fear to hope, from chaos to calm, from uncertainty to trust. Ethan, the groom, stood at the altar, his hands trembling slightly as he took Lila's hand. His eyes, previously filled with nervous anticipation, now reflected gratitude and deep love. Amerison felt the invisible presence of Daniel near her, a comforting weight on her shoulder, a whisper of approval and pride for the way she had guided her family through danger. The vows were exchanged with emotion that transcended words. Every syllable carried the weight of shared experience, the understanding that life was precious and fleeting, and that love required courage and trust. Amerison listened, her heart swelling with pride, tears brimming in her eyes. She felt every nuance, every unspoken promise, every echo of familial and spiritual support surrounding the couple. After the vows, the officiant asked everyone to join hands in a circle around the newlyweds. Amerison glanced at her family, Jonathan, Michael, Lila, and the guests, and realized that this circle represented more than tradition. It symbolized unity, protection, and enduring love. Even those who had been strangers hours earlier now shared in a collective bond forged through shared fear, relief, and joy. As the ceremony concluded, Amerison felt a profound sense of closure. She had faced one of the most frightening moments of her life and had emerged not only unscathed, but with a deeper understanding of what mattered most: family, love, and the quiet guidance of those who had departed yet never truly left. The reception that followed was subdued yet deeply heartfelt. Guests lingered in small groups, sharing stories and laughter, many expressing gratitude for Amerison's courage. Lila and Ethan danced slowly, their movements deliberate, savoring each step as if every second was a gift. Amerison watched them, her heart swelling with pride and hope for her daughter's future. Jonathan leaned against her shoulder, whispering softly, "You did more than save us today. You reminded everyone here why family matters, why love matters. You made this day unforgettable." Amerison smiled faintly, brushing a hand through his hair. "I just did what I had to do," she replied. "But yes, you're right. Today is unforgettable for reasons I never could have imagined." Later, as the guests began to depart, Amerison found herself alone for a few moments in the quiet garden. The moonlight bathed the flowers in silver, and the air was calm, carrying only the faint scent of roses and grass. She closed her eyes and whispered into the night, "Thank you, Daniel, for guiding us, for protecting us, for reminding us that love never truly leaves." A gentle breeze stirred, brushing against her cheek like a familiar touch. Amerison smiled through tears, feeling the presence of her brother more strongly than ever. It was not just a memory, but a tangible connection, proof that love, family, and courage could transcend even death. She reflected on the day, the terror, the bravery, and the love that had carried them through. She realized that life was fragile, unpredictable, and fleeting, but family and love were constants, anchors that could carry them through any storm. Every laugh, every tear, every embrace now held a deeper significance. Amerison thought of Lila, of the future she would face with Ethan, and of the lessons she hoped her daughter would carry forward. She wanted Lila to understand that life was unpredictable, that courage mattered, and that love, above all, was the guiding force that could sustain them through joy and sorrow alike. She walked to the edge of the garden, gazing at the night sky. Stars glittered faintly, a reminder of the vast, mysterious world that lay beyond their immediate lives. And yet, in that vastness, Amerison felt grounded, connected, and at peace. She had faced the unimaginable, protected her family, and embraced the enduring presence of her brother's love. Lila joined her, resting her head against Amerison's shoulder. "Mom, thank you for everything today," she whispered. "I don't think I'll ever forget it." Amerison hugged her tightly, pressing a kiss to the top of her daughter's head. "Neither will I, sweetheart. Neither will I." Jonathan and Michael joined them, forming a circle of warmth, love, and protection. Amerison realized that this moment, quiet, reflective, and intimate, was the true essence of the day. Beyond the ceremony, beyond the chaos, beyond the fear, they had discovered the depth of their bond, the strength of their family, and the enduring presence of love that could never be broken. As the family lingered under the stars, Amerison felt Daniel's presence one final time, subtle yet undeniable. It was a reminder that even when life was uncertain, even when fear threatened to overwhelm, love remained. And in that knowledge, Amerison felt a profound peace, a sense of closure, and an unwavering hope for the future. She whispered softly, "We'll be okay, because we have each other. And because love never truly leaves us." The night air was calm, carrying the quiet promise of tomorrow, of family, and of enduring love. Amerison knew that life would continue to test them, challenge them, and surprise them, but with courage, trust, and the bonds of family, they would face whatever came next together. And somewhere, just beyond the veil of perception, Daniel watched over them. A silent guardian, a loving presence, a reminder that love was eternal and family was forever. The sun had risen over the horizon, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. The garden, which had seen chaos and fear only hours before, now seemed peaceful, almost serene. Birds chirped faintly, and the gentle rustle of leaves filled the quiet morning air. Amerison stepped onto the veranda with a warm cup of tea, the steam curling lazily above it, carrying a comforting aroma. She let her mind wander, reflecting on the events of the previous day, the terror, the courage, and the unspoken guidance she had felt from her brother, Daniel. Jonathan joined her, leaning against the railing beside her. "Morning," he said softly, his voice carrying a calm reassurance. "You didn't get much sleep last night, I bet." Amerison smiled faintly, the edges of exhaustion etched into her face. "No. I kept thinking about everything that happened. About how fragile life is and how much love really matters. About Daniel, too." Jonathan nodded, understanding the depth of her reflection. It was more than just a scare. It was a reminder that life is unpredictable and we can't take anything for granted. But it's also proof of how strong you are and how strong our family is when we stand together. Amerison took a deep sip of her tea, feeling the warmth seep into her chest. "I felt him last night," she said softly. "Daniel. I don't know how else to explain it. He guided us, warned me. I don't think I could have gotten everyone out safely without him." Jonathan's eyes softened. Sometimes, those we love most never truly leave us. They find ways to reach us, to remind us of what matters, to protect us even when we can't see them. Amerison nodded, letting the words sink in. She thought back to the frantic moments of the evacuation, to the flicker of flames near the flower arch, and to the precise, instinctive actions that had saved her family. She realized now that courage was not just about physical action, it was about trust, love, and listening to the guidance that sometimes came from unseen sources. Michael appeared, rubbing the sleep from his eyes, and joined them on the veranda. "Morning, Mom," he said quietly. "I saw the sunrise. It feels like the world is giving us a second chance." Amerison smiled, reaching out to touch his shoulder. "It does, Michael. And we have to honor that second chance. Life is too short to waste on fear or resentment. We have each other, and that's what matters most." Lila appeared behind Michael, her wedding dress still neatly folded and carefully stored. She looked radiant, but her eyes held a softness, reflection of the lessons learned in the past hours. "Mom, I feel like yesterday changed everything," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Not just for me, but for all of us. I understand now. Family, love, courage, they're everything." Amerison hugged her daughter gently, feeling the warmth and strength in her. "Exactly, sweetheart. And that's what I want you to carry forward. Life will always be unpredictable. But love, family, and the courage to do what's right, those are constants. They're what will guide you when nothing else makes sense." They stood in silence for a moment, letting the calm of the morning wash over them. The chaos of the previous day seemed almost like a distant memory, yet its lessons were deeply etched into their hearts. Amerison closed her eyes briefly, feeling the subtle presence of Daniel, his energy surrounding her like a protective shield. "I need to tell you something," she said softly, opening her eyes. "Something I realized last night. Daniel, he didn't just warn me because there was danger. He reminded us of who we are, of what we value, of the love that binds us. He wanted us to see clearly that family and courage are the most important things we have." Jonathan nodded slowly. "It makes sense. That's the kind of person he was, always thinking of others, always protecting those he loved. Even in death, he found a way to guide us." Michael added quietly, "I think I understand now. Life isn't about avoiding fear or danger, it's about how we respond when it comes. And about the people we have beside us." Amerison felt a lump in her throat, a mixture of emotion and gratitude. "Exactly. And that's why I want us to honor today, and every day we have. To be present, to care for each other, and to remember that love is the force that carries us through even the darkest moments." Lila's eyes shimmered with tears, but her expression was filled with understanding and hope. "I'll remember, Mom. I promise. And I'll make sure our family, our future, is built on what Daniel taught us yesterday." Amerison reached out, placing a hand gently on her daughter's cheek. "That's all I could ever hope for, sweetheart. That's all any of us could ever hope for." The family lingered on the veranda, basking in the warmth of the morning sun. The events of the previous day had brought them closer, had reminded them of the fragility of life and the importance of cherishing every moment. Amerison felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. She had faced the unimaginable, guided her family through danger, and witnessed the enduring presence of her brother's love. As the morning progressed, guests began to trickle in for a more intimate breakfast gathering. Conversations were quieter now, reflective, filled with gratitude and appreciation. Stories of Daniel's life, his kindness, and his humor were shared freely, each tale reinforcing the spiritual presence that had guided the family through the chaos. Amerison moved among the guests, offering words of thanks, hugs, and smiles. Each interaction reminded her that the day had become more than a wedding. It had become a testament to family, resilience, and the power of love that transcends even death. Later, when the guests had departed, Amerison found herself in the quiet of the garden once more. She closed her eyes, letting the sun's warmth seep into her skin, and whispered softly, "Daniel, thank you. For everything. For the warning, for the protection, for the love. I feel you with us, always." A gentle breeze stirred, carrying the faint scent of roses and a subtle warmth that made her heart swell. She opened her eyes, feeling a profound sense of closure. Daniel's presence had been undeniable, his guidance undeniable, and his love unshakable. Amerison realized that the day's events had taught them something invaluable. Life was unpredictable, but courage, love, and family were constants. They would always have each other, and they would always carry the lessons of that day in their hearts. She walked back toward the house, her family close behind her. Lila held her hand tightly, Michael walked beside Jonathan, and Amerison felt the weight of love and gratitude surrounding them. They had survived fear, faced uncertainty, and emerged stronger, more united, and more aware of the value of every moment. In the quiet of the home, Amerison reflected on the legacy she wanted to leave. Not wealth or accolades, but courage, love, and the wisdom of cherishing family. She wanted Lila to grow up understanding that life was precious, that fear could be faced with courage, and that the bonds of family were unbreakable. As the day unfolded, Amerison felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would continue to honor Daniel's memory, not just through words, but through actions, through love, protection, and the unwavering presence she offered her family. The events of the past day had changed them all, and she knew that they would carry the lessons forward, shaping their lives in ways both subtle and profound. Even in moments of quiet reflection, Amerison felt Daniel's guidance. He was no longer just a memory. He was a presence, a force of love and protection that had woven itself into the fabric of their lives. And in that knowledge, she found peace, hope, and the courage to face whatever the future might hold. The morning passed, filled with calm, gentle conversations and shared moments of gratitude. Amerison realized that while life would continue to be unpredictable, she had the tools, the love, and the guidance necessary to face it fully. She looked at her family, her daughter, her sons, her husband, and felt a profound sense of connection, understanding, and peace, and somewhere, beyond the veil of the visible world, Amerison felt Daniel's presence once more. It was subtle, yet undeniable, a reminder that love endures, that family is eternal, and that courage guided by love can overcome even the darkest moments. Amerison whispered softly, her voice carrying across the quiet garden, "We'll honor you, Daniel, every day. And we'll live fully, love fiercely, and cherish each other, just as you would have wanted." The sun climbed higher in the sky, bathing the garden in light, and Amerison felt a deep sense of closure, love, and spiritual connection. The events of the past day had tested them, shaped them, and united them in ways that would endure for a lifetime. And in that enduring love, Amerison found strength, peace, and hope for the future. The morning had long given way to afternoon sunlight, spilling golden warmth across the garden. The air was still and calm, a stark contrast to the chaos of the previous day. Amerison walked slowly among the flowers, the gentle breeze carrying the faint scent of roses. Every petal seemed to whisper reminders of life's fragility and beauty, and she felt an unusual quiet within her, a mixture of peace, reflection, and lingering awe. Jonathan and Michael were setting up the last remnants of the wedding decorations, now slightly tattered from the sudden evacuation. Yet, even in their worn state, the flowers and ribbons seemed more vibrant, more meaningful. The day had transformed them, just as it had transformed Amerison. Each gesture, each step, now carried a significance beyond simple celebration. Amerison paused near the edge of the garden, watching Lila carefully arrange her wedding bouquet on a small table. She couldn't help but marvel at her daughter's grace, composure, and resilience. Despite the fear, Lila had found the courage to continue her special day, and in doing so, she had inspired everyone around her. Amerison felt a swell of pride and emotion. "Mom," Lila said softly, looking up. "I've been thinking about everything that happened yesterday. About Daniel, about life, and about how precious every moment is." Amerison knelt beside her daughter, placing a hand gently on her shoulder. "Yes, sweetheart. That's exactly right. Life is unpredictable, but family, love, and courage, those are constants. That's what yesterday reminded us." Lila nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I want to remember him, not just as my uncle who passed, but as someone who protected us, even when we didn't understand how." Amerison's heart ached with a mixture of grief and gratitude. "That's the gift he left for us," she whispered. "Not just the warning, but the reminder of how powerful love is. How it guides us, protects us, and gives us courage, even when we can't see it." Michael walked over, carrying a tray of tea for the family. "Mom," he said softly, "I've been thinking too, about how we respond to life. Yesterday was terrifying, but it showed us what really matters. Family. Trust. Love." Amerison smiled faintly, touched by the depth of her children's understanding. Exactly, Michael. And it's up to us to honor those lessons. To live fully, love fiercely, and protect each other, just as Daniel did for us, and just as we must for each other. Jonathan joined them, wrapping an arm around Amerison's shoulder. You know, he said, his voice quiet but steady, I think Daniel would be proud of us. Proud of how we faced fear, stayed together, and found strength in each other. Amerison looked up at the sky, imagining her brother's smiling face, the familiar warmth in his eyes, and the playful determination he always carried. I hope so, she whispered. I hope he knows how much we love him, and how much we appreciate everything he's done even now. A gentle breeze stirred, brushing Amerison's hair across her face. She closed her eyes, feeling the presence of Daniel once more. This time, it was different, not urgent, not demanding action, but peaceful, reassuring, and filled with love. She felt him as a gentle weight on her heart, a comforting energy that wrapped around her and her family like a protective cloak. Daniel, she whispered softly, we'll be okay now. We've learned your lessons. We understand. We'll live fully, love deeply, and take care of each other, just like you would want. The breeze swirled again, almost like a reply, and Amerison felt a profound sense of closure. The warning, the chaos, the fear, all of it had led to this moment of understanding, peace, and spiritual connection. She realized that the purpose of the day had never been just about danger. It had been about reminding her family of the strength they held together and the love that transcended life itself. Lila stepped closer, taking her mother's hand. Mom, I want us to make a promise, she said, her voice steady. A promise to honor family, to be brave, and to never forget the lessons Daniel taught us. Amerison squeezed her daughter's hand, feeling a wave of emotion wash over her. I promise, sweetheart. Every day. Always. For him and for us. Michael nodded, joining the circle, his eyes reflecting gratitude and understanding. I promise too, Mom. And I'll make sure we carry this forward. Not just as memories, but as action. We'll live like he taught us, courageously, with love and together. Jonathan placed a hand over theirs, completing the circle. We all promise, he said firmly. Together. Always. Amerison felt tears well in her eyes, but this time they were tears of gratitude, relief, and deep emotional clarity. The family stood together, united, and she realized that this bond, strengthened through shared fear, love, and guidance, would endure far beyond the events of the past day. She let herself close her eyes again, imagining Daniel standing with them, smiling proudly. His presence calm and reassuring. Thank you, Daniel, she whispered, for teaching us, for protecting us, and for reminding us that love is eternal. A faint warmth brushed her face, and she opened her eyes to see a single ray of sunlight falling directly onto the flowers she had been admiring. It felt symbolic, a quiet sign that Daniel's presence was acknowledged and that the family's promise had been heard. Amerison smiled through her tears, feeling a deep sense of spiritual closure. The rest of the afternoon was filled with quiet reflection and simple family moments. They shared stories of Daniel, his humor, his wisdom, and the countless ways he had impacted their lives. Laughter mingled with tears, creating a tapestry of emotions that strengthened the bonds between them. Amerison realized that the day, though marked by fear and chaos, had become a profound celebration of life, love, and family. As the evening approached, Amerison led her family back to the veranda, sitting together as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the garden. She reflected on the legacy she wanted to leave, not one of possessions or accolades, but one of love, courage, and the unwavering bond of family. She wanted her children to understand that life was precious, that fear could be faced with bravery, and that the guidance of those we loved never truly left us. She felt Daniel's presence once more, subtle yet undeniable, as if he were giving his final blessing. We'll be okay, she whispered aloud, a quiet vow to honor his memory and the lessons he had imparted. We'll live fully, love deeply, and take care of each other, always. The family sat in silence, watching the sky turn from gold to deep purple and then to a blanket of stars. Amerison felt a deep, abiding peace, knowing that her brother's love and guidance would continue to shape them, protect them, and inspire them long into the future. Lila rested her head against her mother's shoulder. "Mom, I feel him too," she said softly. "I feel Daniel, like he's still here with us." Amerison kissed the top of her daughter's head, holding her close. "Yes, sweetheart. He is. And he always will be. In our hearts, in our love, and in the choices we make every day." Jonathan and Michael joined them, completing the circle of warmth and protection. Amerison realized that the family's bond had grown stronger than ever, forged in the crucible of fear, love, and spiritual guidance. They were no longer just a family. They were a unit, resilient and united, capable of facing any challenge life might throw their way. As night fully settled, Amerison allowed herself one last moment of quiet reflection. She closed her eyes and whispered softly, "Goodbye, Daniel, and thank you. We'll honor you in everything we do. We'll carry your love with us always." A gentle breeze brushed past her, a final, comforting presence. Amerison opened her eyes to see the stars twinkling above, feeling that Daniel's spirit had been acknowledged, his guidance fulfilled, and his love eternally present in the hearts of his family. And in that moment, Amerison understood something profound. Life would continue to be unpredictable, but courage, love, and family would always be constants. They had survived fear, embraced love, and found peace, and that was a legacy worth carrying forward for generations to come. The morning after the events that had nearly shattered their celebration was calm, serene, and filled with a quiet, almost sacred energy. The garden, now bathed in soft sunlight, seemed almost untouched by the chaos of the previous day. Amerison stood near the veranda, her hands resting gently on the railing, taking in the warmth of the sun and the sounds of birds singing. She felt a sense of stillness settle over her, one that was deeply earned after the trials they had faced. Lila approached quietly, her wedding dress now carefully stored away, and stood beside her mother. "Mom," she said softly, "I feel like yesterday changed me. Everything feels different, like life is more precious." Amerison nodded, brushing a gentle hand across her daughter's shoulder. "It did, sweetheart. It reminded us how fragile life is and how much love matters. But more importantly, it reminded us that we're never truly alone. Family, love, and those we care about, they carry us through even the hardest moments." Jonathan joined them, holding a small cup of tea, his presence calm and grounding. "You all were incredible yesterday," he said softly. "Every moment, from the evacuation to the wedding, you showed courage, love, and strength. I think Daniel would be proud of us." Amerison felt her eyes fill with tears, not from fear this time, but from gratitude. "He would be proud, Jonathan. And I know he's still with us, watching, guiding, protecting us in ways we might not always see." Michael came over with a notebook in hand. "Mom, I've been writing down everything we experienced yesterday. The lessons, the feelings, everything Daniel reminded us of. I want to make sure we never forget, not just as a family, but for the future too." Amerison smiled warmly, placing a hand over his. "That's a wonderful idea, Michael. We can turn this into something meaningful, a guide for how we live, how we love, and how we stay together, no matter what." Lila leaned against her mother, whispering, "I think I understand what you meant yesterday, about love and courage being constants, even when everything else is uncertain." Amerison hugged her tightly. "Exactly, sweetheart. That's what we'll carry forward. And we'll honor Daniel by living fully, loving deeply, and taking care of each other. Always." The families stood together in the garden, a circle of warmth and connection. The sun climbed higher, casting light across their faces and highlighting the strength and love that had carried them through the trials of the previous day. Amerison realized that the events had bonded them in ways that could never be broken, creating a foundation for hope, resilience, and unity. Later, as the day unfolded, Amerison invited the family to sit together for a quiet meal. Conversations were soft, reflective, and filled with gratitude. They shared stories of Daniel, his humor, his kindness, and the way he had always cared for each of them. Laughter mixed with tears, creating a tapestry of emotions that reminded them of the depth of their connection and the enduring presence of love. Amerison found herself reflecting on her own life, the choices she had made, the challenges she had faced, and the love she had cultivated in her family. She understood now that life's most valuable lessons were often learned through adversity, and that the guidance of those who loved her could appear in unexpected ways. Daniel's warning, his presence, and his unwavering love had not only saved their lives, but had shown them the power of courage, intuition, and family. As afternoon turned to evening, the family gathered once more in the garden. The gentle glow of lanterns and the soft sounds of nature created a sense of calm reverence. Amerison felt Daniel's presence strongly again, subtle yet unmistakable, like a warm embrace. She closed her eyes, imagining him standing there, smiling proudly, proud not just of their survival, but of the way they had embraced the lessons he had imparted. "Thank you, Daniel," she whispered softly, her voice filled with love. "For guiding us, for protecting us, and for reminding us that love never truly leaves us. We'll honor you in everything we do, every day, in every choice, and in every act of love." A gentle breeze stirred, brushing her hair and carrying with it the faint scent of his favorite cologne, a subtle but unmistakable reminder that he was near. Amerison felt her heart swell with gratitude, peace, and hope. The trials of the past day had not only tested them, but had illuminated the strength, resilience, and love that defined their family. Lila stepped closer, her hand slipping into Amerison's. "Mom, I feel him too. Like he's still guiding us, even now. I think he wants us to be happy and brave and together." "Yes, sweetheart," Amerison replied softly. "That's exactly what he wants. And we will be. We will live fully, love deeply, and honor him in every way we can." Jonathan placed an arm around them both, completing the circle of family. Michael joined, and soon they were all standing together, a united front of love, courage, and hope. Amerison realized that the presence of those they had lost, like Daniel, was not meant to bring sorrow but to guide, inspire, and strengthen them in ways both visible and unseen. The night sky deepened, stars twinkling brightly above. Amerison felt a sense of closure, a profound spiritual understanding that Daniel's love would continue to be a guiding force in their lives. She knew that life would continue to be unpredictable, that challenges would arise, but the foundation of love, family, and courage they had strengthened together would carry them forward. She whispered softly into the night, "We'll be okay, Daniel. We'll honor you, and we'll live the way you taught us, with love, courage, and unity. Always." A soft wind brushed past, carrying a sense of reassurance, and Amerison felt the finality of the spiritual connection with her brother. It was not a farewell in sorrow, but a completion of a journey, a promise that his love would remain, guiding them forward, inspiring them, and reminding them of what truly mattered. The family lingered in the garden, sharing quiet moments of reflection. They laughed softly, wiped away tears, and embraced the deep sense of unity that had emerged from yesterday's trials. Amerison realized that life's meaning was found not in material achievements, but in the bonds they nurtured, the love they shared, and the courage they displayed when it was most needed. As the evening drew to a close, Amerison took a final look around the garden. The flowers, the lanterns, and the gentle shadows of trees reflected the resilience and beauty of life. She understood that every moment, even the fearful and uncertain ones, could hold lessons, guidance, and love. With a final glance to the sky, Amerison whispered, "Thank you, Daniel. Your love will always guide us. Your lessons will always stay with us. And your presence will always be part of our family." The family gathered for a last embrace, holding each other tightly, feeling the warmth, strength, and unity that would carry them forward. Amerison felt a deep, abiding peace, the knowledge that life, though unpredictable, was filled with love, courage, and family, and that Daniel's spirit would remain a part of them forever, and in that quiet, starlit garden. Amerison understood the truth of the past day's events. Life was precious, love was eternal, and the bonds of family, strengthened by courage, guided by intuition, and blessed by those who had gone before, would endure, carrying them through every challenge, every joy, and every dream that lay ahead. The night settled fully, and the family lingered a little longer, savoring the peace, the love, and the knowledge that they had been forever changed for the better by courage, unity, and the unwavering presence of Daniel's love. Amerison closed her eyes, finally allowing herself to breathe freely, to release the fear, and to embrace the promise of tomorrow. Life would continue, and they would continue with it, stronger, wiser, and united, and somewhere, beyond sight but within the heart, Daniel smiled, proud and at peace, knowing that his family had understood the ultimate lesson: love endures, family is eternal, and courage guided by love can overcome any obstacle.